grade 8s. I hope you're all doing well. And this is what we were busy with in our class, and that is integers and the order of operation. So I promised my students that I will make a video for them, and here we are. So when working with integers are numbers like -5, a 2, a 1, a 0, -200. So it can be a positive or a negative, but it's nice whole numbers, like there's no decimals or there's no fractions. Okay, so if you're in my class, if you look up, it's all the numbers on the board, on the walls that you are seeing. Those are all integers. Okay, and then with that goes the order of operation. Now the order of operation tells you in which order to tackle a sum and to start simplifying that expression that was given. Okay, so we always start, and I don't know if you've heard this in class, but we talk about BEDMAS. BEDMAS, the B is for brackets. So like a moth to a flame, you're always drawn to your brackets. And if you can simplify inside, that is first your first priority, and then exponent. So if there is a little exponent sitting at the top, if it's one term inside, it's everything inside that bracket is to the power 2. That is law number 1 with your exponents. And then thereafter, the second step is to, if there's a multiplication or a -2, that then gets distributed into your bracket. And that is your third one, which is division and multiplication. So just to show you, after you've done your bracket, couldn't simplify, bracket and exponent, if there was one, and then your third step is to then say, okay, if there was a -2 inside, that needs to now go multiply in. So that operation is a multiplication, and that's why it stands third in line. Okay, but also if you've got multiplication and division and another multiplication, and it's just that you don't go and do the division first, because it says here division first. You work from left to right. So the way you write, you start from the left hand side and you work through the sum from left to right. And the same with addition and subtraction. So if you've got a plus and a minus and a minus and a plus, 2 and 4 and 6 and 3, again, it doesn't mean that addition, because it's first in the BEDMAS abbreviation, that you do addition first. You work from left all the way through to right. Okay, so let's quickly look at some examples. Oh, sorry, I see something has been erased over here. It was just a bracket, and yeah, we're going to put a minus. Okay, so remember your BEDMAS. So we want to start with the brackets. So I'm going to write BEDMAS over here, and I write it like that because the addition and subtraction, division and multiplication works on the same level. So you're going to go to your brackets. Now there's nothing to simplify inside the bracket. There's one, if there's no exponent, there's a 1 over there, but it doesn't interfere with my order of operation. And now we're going to say, let me just get a nice color here, like a purple. We're going to multiply with whatever's in front of the bracket into that bracket. Okay, and the same over here. So I say the signs melt together. And this is something that you need to know. Very important. You need to write up or somewhere, or you'll start learning it quickly. A positive times a positive gives you a positive. A negative times a negative also gives you a positive. So when they are the same, and just get a color here, sorry. If they are the same, they become a positive. If they are different, if they are a negative times a positive, that will give you a negative. Or the other way around, a positive times a negative also gives you a negative. So those are the two things that you need to remember. So if they are different, it becomes a minus, and if they are the same, they become a positive. Okay, so let's carry on. The positive and negative becomes a negative because they're different 14. Then a positive times a negative is a negative 10. And do you see when doing that, I drop my brackets. And a minus times a minus is a positive 6. And then you just work from left to right. And if needs be, if you are using your calculators already, you just pop that in and then you get it's negative 18. Okay. Just want to change my color here. All right. Moving on to the next one. So can you see the difference between these two? This one, is a multiplication. It's negative 6 times negative 5 times negative 4. On number C, it's a negative 6 times a negative 5. The answer, minus 4. Okay, so that's how it makes it different. So when you multiply, a negative times a negative makes a positive, and a positive times a negative again makes a negative. Okay, and 6 times 5 is 30, and 30 times 4 gives you 120. Okay, so over here, negative 6 times a negative 5, and negative times a negative makes a positive. You don't have to write that positive, and 6 times 5 is 30 minus 4. Okay, 30 minus 4 is 26. Good. Moving on. So again, moth to a flame. Have to go to my bracket. There lies my attention first. So it's 12 minus 2. The rest you just write down. And once you simplify your answer, keep your answer within bracket, because the only way of getting a bracket away is once you have multiplied whatever is in front of the bracket into the bracket. So step 1 is we're just going to simplify the bracket but keep our brackets. 1 minus 4 is negative 4. And now we're going to say, all right, how do I get this bracket away? By multiplying whatever's in front into the bracket. 12, and a negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 4 is 8. And then your answer is 20. Again, a moth to a flame. Simplify over there. And then we rewrite everything 12 minus 2 plus 1 minus 5 is negative 4. And can you see now in front of that bracket is only a positive. There's no number like there was here. Here there was a negative 2. Here there's only the plus. So then you're going to say 12 minus 2 and a plus and a minus, because they're different, it becomes a negative. 12 minus 2 is 10. 10 minus 6 is, 10 minus 4 is 6. Okay. Then let's have a look over here. So again, a moth to a flame. First have to take those brackets, simplify them. Okay. So 16, a positive 16. A positive times a negative is a negative. And 16 times 4 gives you 64. Divided by 34 minus 2 gives you 34 minus 2 gives you 32. And then it's the same with division. A negative divided by a positive gives you a negative. And 64 divided by 32 gives you 2. Okay. First step. Let's simplify those brackets. Minus 2, and I'm going to keep my brackets because I haven't multiplied anything out. I'm only going to simplify my brackets like that. So minus 2 plus 11 gives you a positive 9, and minus 1 minus another 1 gives you minus 2. And over here, 3 minus 4 gives you negative 1. And now the way we can get rid of our brackets is to multiply those two together and multiply whatever's in front of the bracket into the bracket. Then we're left with a positive times a negative is a negative. 9 times 2 is 18. And a negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 1 is 3. Negative 18 plus 3 gives you negative 15. Okay. So over here, Very, very important. It looks so nice to go and say -5 minus 3 gives you -2, but you cannot. So we start, where do we start? We start with our brackets. So we've got -5, -3, and then our big brackets, you can keep it as a big bracket, -7. So if you've got a bracket within a bracket, you start with the inner brackets. And can you see how to get your inner bracket away is to multiply those two together. Whatever's in front of the bracket goes into that bracket to make it go away. So -7, a negative is a positive 6. And then it's all raised to the power of 2. So -7 plus 6 all raised to the power 2. -5 minus 3. And now we're going to simplify our brackets. We're still not done with those brackets. -7 plus 6 gives you -1. So remember BEDMAS? B-E. So E is for exponents. So I now need to bring this 2 into my brackets. So -5 minus 3 bracket. I'm going to make them round brackets now because I'm finished with a bracket within a bracket. And now very, very, very important. A negative raised to the power 2 becomes a positive. Okay, a negative to an even number becomes a positive. Let me make a summary like that. So a negative number, let's say -2, raised to an even number will become a positive. A negative raised to an odd number, an uneven number, will stay a negative. Okay, so negative to a power 2 becomes a positive, and 1 times 1 gives you 1. And now we can say, all right, how do we get those brackets away? By multiplying whatever is in front into the bracket over there. So then I'm left with -5, and a negative times a positive is a negative. 3 times 1 is 3, and your answer is -8. Okay, so with this one again, you start on your inner bracket, you move out, and then you go to your exponents, then you multiply whatever's in front of the bracket. That's your last or second last step, and then you add and subtract. Okay, so now very, very important. Something to remember with brackets versus no brackets with exponents. Okay, so if we look over here, when the -2 is not within brackets, the exponent 2 only belongs to the 2. So the negative comes down, and 2 to the power 2 is 4. Now if you say versus, now the negative raised to an even number. Now do you see that the -2, they've put it in brackets. It says everything inside that bracket is raised to the power 2. So a negative to an even number becomes a positive. And 2 to the power 2 is 4. So you don't have to write that positive. But do you see that this side will give you a -4, and the right-hand side will give you a positive 4. Okay, let's have a look at more examples. All right, so yeah, can you see that that exponent, that 2, doesn't belong to the negative as well? Otherwise, they would have had to put it within brackets, but they didn't. So the negative comes down, and 7 squared gives you 49 minus. So now first the bracket over here, negative to the power an even number will become a positive. 7 to the power 2 gives you 49. The only way you can drop those brackets is once you multiply whatever's in front into that bracket. Okay, so yeah, sorry, I just simplified that. I know that you start with your brackets, but if you can simplify something on the other side, you're more than welcome to go and do so. Okay, so -49 minus plus is a minus another 49, which gives you a -98. Okay. And there's your answer. Let me just make sure. Negative raised to an even number becomes a positive. Negative and a positive makes a negative. Negative 49 minus another 49. Okay, next step. Again, the negative is not raised to the power 2, so it's a negative 5 squared, which is 25, minus bracket. So can you see here now, a negative to an odd number becomes or stays a negative. A negative raised to an odd number stays a negative. And 5 to the power of 3 is 125. Now we can get rid of our brackets by multiplying whatever's in front into the bracket. And you're left with negative 25 plus 125, which will give you 100. And that is it. Okay. I know that most of you can say, but ma'am, we can put this in our calculator. But when you are working with variables, when variables come to play, then you won't be able to, and you need to just practice this order of operation with exponents and expressions very carefully. Okay, so first step, moth to a flame. Can I simplify whatever is in front of the bracket? I can. So it's going to be 3 squared is 9, minus 4 squared is 16, all raised to the power 2. I can continue simplifying. 9 minus 16 gives you negative 7, all raised to the power 2. Your negative as well, because that was what is inside the bracket. And then the way to drop the bracket is to say, okay, all raised to the power 2. A negative to an even number becomes a positive, and 7 squared is 49. Okay, again, you don't have to write that a positive, just to show you. That's why I'm writing it. Okay, over here, let's simplify. Same with a square root. It works almost the same as a bracket, so you're going to first simplify whatever's underneath the bracket, and then you're going to take the square root away. So 3 times 3 to the power 3. 3 to the power 3 is 27, and 27 times 3 gives you 81. Now you can say take the square root away. Square root of 81 is 9. All right, so please remember, you cannot have a negative underneath a square root. That is a non-real number. It doesn't exist. I always say it's the ghosty numbers. Ooh, they do not exist. Okay, so negative under a square root does not exist. It's a non-real number. But you can have a negative under a cube root. Why is it this? I just want to quickly show you. So remember, how do you get the answer? You say what times what gives you negative 16. And that what and what must be exactly the same. So if I say 4 times 4, that will give me 16. Not a negative 16. And if I say negative 4 times negative 4, it will give me a positive 16. So no way on this earth can you get a negative under a square root. But you can get a negative under a cube root. So let's quickly see. What times what times what should give you a negative. Let's just quickly take 8. So if I say 2 times 2 times 2, that will give you 8. And if I say negative and a negative and a negative, negative times a negative is a positive, times a negative will give you a negative again. Okay, so you can get a negative under a cube root. You can't get a negative under a square root. Okay, but first I'm going to simplify whatever's underneath here. Is the negative raised to the power 2? No. So the negative comes down, and 8 times 8 is 64. And so your answer, you take the cube root away, a negative to an odd number stays a negative, and 64 cube rooted gives you 4. Okay, again, square root. Negative is raised to the power 2, so negative 3 times a negative 3 gives you a positive 9, minus a negative. Now, can you see here, the negative is not raised to the power 2 because that 2 isn't on the outside, it's on the inside. So the negative stays, and 4 squared is 16. Then you're going to get 9, and a negative melted together with a negative will give you a positive 16, which is the square root of 25. And lastly, we can take our square root away, and the answer is 5. Okay, now we're getting to the bigger ones. Square root of 81, because there's just 81, I can do that. It's 9. Times, what is the cube root of 125? So we know it's going to be a negative. And 125 cube rooted gives you a 5. All over. Now, how at the bottom here, can you see a positive and a negative to get rid of that bracket? So it's going to be minus 3. Plus and a minus makes a minus 3 minus 3. Okay, so why did the brackets fall away? Because I multiplied with whatever's in front inside that bracket. So now you're going to say a positive times a negative is a negative. 9 times 5 is 45. Over minus 3 minus another 3 minus another 3 gives you negative 9. And 45 divided by 9. And negative divided by negative is a positive, and 5. Again, you don't have to write that positive. Okay, let's see how many more. This is our very, very last one. Well done for watching all the way. I promise you it will stand you in good stead. I love that saying. Okay, the negative is on the outside. So do you see it's not on the inside, it's on the outside. So it's fine. So the negative, a negative comes down. The square root of 144 is 12. Plus, now we're going to do these brackets. We're going to simplify them. So it's a negative 2 times 4 squared. So we're first going to multiply, because that's our order of operation within the bracket as well. So a negative times a positive is a negative. And 2 times 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. Plus 17. Over. This is easy. A negative 3 times a negative 3 times a negative 3. Negative times a negative is a positive. Times a negative is a negative. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Okay, now we're going to simplify. Minus 12 plus minus 32 plus 17 gives you a negative 15 all over negative 27. Just going to go to the side here. So that plus minus is going to melt together to drop our final bracket there. So it's minus 12 minus 15 divided by negative 27. And minus 12 minus another 15, oh, thank goodness it works out nicely, is negative 27 over negative 27. And the same thing divided by the same thing gives you 1. Oh, what a good answer. What a nice answer. Okay, so negative divided by negative, positive 27 divided by 27 is 1. Okay, so soon you had started already, I think, with the exponents. Just a reminder as well. So if I've got 2x to the power 3 divided by 2x to the power 3, and the value of x is 1. 1 to the power 3 will be 1. 1 times 2 is 2. So then you'll also be left with 2 over 2, which is 1. So whenever you've got the same something at the top and the same something at the bottom, your answer will always be 1. All right. Thank you so much for listening, grade 8s. I really hope it's going well and that you're keeping on top of all the work that's given to you in class. And just, what I always tell my kids is when you walk out of that class, you must say, yes, I understood everything, or no. And if your answer is no, you better do something, because it's going to pile up, and then you're just going to understand less and less and less as you carry on. So please stay on top of your maths and just love the subject. It is such a cool subject, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day further. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.